Some people want to retire as soon as humanly possible. Some have to keep working. And some people really just want to stay on the job. Today on Your Money, Your Wealth, some tips, considerations, and benefits of planning for retirement when you don't plan to retire. Plus, how much should you have saved for retirement at different stages of life? How much has the average millennial saved? And what's the deal with the 5-year clock on a Roth IRA? Should you get married so you can take advantage of the fact that your new spouse's Roth is already over 5 years old? And should you really be asking marriage advice of Joe and Big Al? Here they are now, Joe Anderson, CFP, and Big Al Clopine, CPA.
I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about how much money the average millennial has saved.
All right.
And I'll tell you right off the bat, this is Go Banking Rate Survey in 2017. 57% of all Americans, not just millennials, all Americans have less than $1,000 in their savings account. And 39% have no savings at all.
So, okay, say that again.
Yeah, so 57% have less than $1,000. So let's call it 60%.
60% have less than $1,000 saved.
And of that, almost about 40% is...
Of the 60.
Yeah, is no savings. So I'll put it this way. Let's just in round numbers. 40% have no savings at all, and then 20% have less than $1,000.
Crazy.
So that's so then it's like, well, how about the millennials? Maybe they're doing better. Of course, they're younger. They've had less time to save. But according to this article on CNBC by Kathleen Elkins, the young people are no exception. So she looked at young millennials and then older millennials. So young millennials are between age 18 and 24. And here she says 67% have less than $1,000 in savings. See, to me, that doesn't surprise me.
When I was 24, I had less than $1,000.
Ryan, my son's 24. He's got less than $1,000. I mean, you just you don't have a lot of money then, right? Paying off student loans and all kinds of stuff. But at any rate, interestingly enough, though, I'll give you a couple stats here, and that's so let's see, 46% have zero. 13% have 10,000 or more.
All right.
So that's pretty good for that age. But then what about older millennials? So that's 25 through 34. And it's a little better, but Joe, not much. I mean, so we got 41% that have nothing. Okay, we've got another 20% that have less than 1,000. And at the other end of the spectrum, we've got only 20% that have 10,000 or more.
Got it.
So there's some work to be done.
Yeah, it's tough, I mean, if you take a look at, people in their 50s and 60s have, what's the median or something, 14,500? Well, I forget where we ever got that stat from.
Yeah, it was... So
we have no source backing that?
Well, so. I think it was Fidelity, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's don't quote me exactly, but it's in this range that the average 401k balance is, I thought it was more like $10,000.
Well, it's not the average, it's the median.
The median, right.
So whatever's in the middle.
The median of all people, but that includes people that don't have a 401k. So if you take those out, you take people that don't have a 401k, then the median is like 97,000. That was the latest that came out of Fidelity, I think, a few months ago. Something like that.
That's not the average? That's the median. Explain what's the difference between an average and a median,
okay.
Please?
Well, average is by taking all the totals of all the accounts and dividing it by the number of participants. And so you have certain accounts that have a really high balance that sort of skew the average.
Right.
The median just says half the people have more and half the people have less.
So they take a look and if you could think of all the people in a line, right? And so the people with the millions are on one side, the people with the zero are on the other side.
Right.
And if there's 100 people, then they look at the 50th person and then they say, how much does this person have?
Right.
Because they got more than half,
yes,
but less than the other half, and then that was 14,500.
Yeah, and it's right, and it's widely thought that the median is a better gauge because the averages can really skew it. I mean, you've got some people like Mitt Romney's 401k where he's got multi-millions, right?
100 million.
And so you got his is 100 million. You got another person with zero, right? So the
average is,
or you have two other people with zero, right? So the average is 33 million.
Yeah.
The median is zero because there's one above that, one below that. So
right.
that's a little bit more accurate representation.
Yeah,
That's the idea. And Joe, to kind of give you some guidelines here based upon age, and this came out of Fidelity, just to give you an idea, and they're recommending by age 30 you should have 1 times your salary saved, 35, 2 times your salary, 40, 3 times your salary. By 45, have 4 times your salary.
Is this just liquid, or does this include home? Does it home equity? What are these numbers represent? So I'm 40 years old. I make $100,000 a year, so I should have $300,000. Is that my net worth, or is that retirement assets? Is that liquid assets? Is that what?
That would be liquid assets. So that wouldn't necessarily include your home, because you have to have a place to live anyway. Although a lot of people in California, their home becomes a retirement asset because they've got a lot of equity in it. But just as a guideline, and I don't care whether it's in retirement accounts or outside of retirement accounts or combination, that's what's being recommended by age 55, 6 times, age 60, 7 times, and age 65, 8 times. Although Fidelity, this is an older source, because Fidelity updated that and said at 65 you ought to have about 10 times your salary. And the reason they're saying that is because when you think about how much you can actually withdraw from a portfolio, let's say you make $100,000 a year, and at age 65, 10 times it'd be $1 million. The $1 million, well, that's as a quick rule of thumb, you can take about 4% of that $1 million. Right. So that's $40,000. And then you figure, if I was making $100,000, I'll probably have around $30,000 in Social Security. Right. So that's $70,000, and maybe I'll spend less in retirement. A lot of times people spend equal or more.
Right.
But let's just say if you can spend a little bit less in retirement, you at least have some quality of life. So that's kind of where this 10 times comes from.
Yeah, because I think with a lot of those different calculators online, they assume 75% of what you're currently spending in retirement. So if I'm spending $100,000 today, well, in retirement you'll spend $75,000, and then they can kind of do this quick math. It's a good rule of thumb.
I mean, and of course that's all it is. It's
right. Sometimes people will go into retirement with $300,000 saved, and they're spending $100,000.
Yeah, and they've never done that simple math.
Right, because $300,000 is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
And then, but if you don't understand the arithmetic, you're going to blow yourself up fairly quickly.
Yeah. So if that's you, $300,000 times 4%, so that's $12,000. Social Security is $30,000, so that's $42,000. That's about what you can spend. And if you're spending $150,000 a year right now, it's not going to add up.
Yeah, it's not going to add up at all. So, I think it helps to some degree, but you want to make sure that you pinpoint this a little bit more. I was teaching at Southwest College this week, and a gentleman, and by the way, too, this guy, really good guy, I set up class it's a 2-part class, right? You got 2 nights.
Yeah, right.
You know this, right?
I do.
Are you sure?
Okay. I'll confirm that. Have I been to your class?
No.
Never?
Never. It's 10 years.
I think I went to
maybe you went to USD.
I did go to USD.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, early on. And so anyway, I'm setting up, just walk in, and then he's sitting in the front, and he's like, "Hey, does Big Al ever come on?" I was like, "Big Al? He's probably got 3 beers in him by now on the couch."
No, I got family, I got kids, family responsibilities.
But anyway, I think he has to be a fan of the show. I didn't ask him
if he knew about Big Al.
Or maybe he was your neighbor. I don't know.
Probably.
And so we were getting into some tax planning, and we talked about Roth contributions and conversions, and tax diversification of assets and so on. And so so the next class he's like, well, here I went online on these calculators, and it's kind of telling me that it may or may not make sense. And I was like, well, how many inputs did you put in the calculator?
Right.
And he's like, I think they just asked for like 3.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's the problem, right? Your age,
right.
How much money, you know what I mean? You've got to dive in a little bit deeper to kind of figure this stuff out versus some of the calculators that are online.
Yeah, and sometimes the retirement calculators, they're okay, but the Roth ones, I agree, there's not much value in that.
Awful.
Brush up on your financial literacy. Check out Your Money, Your Wealth and Pure Financial Advisors on YouTube. We've got brand new videos on the proposed tax reform, We've got a webcast on Investing 101. We've got video clips on the basics of estate planning to help you avoid the most common mistakes. And we've got planned giving strategies for creating charitable tax deductions on the latest episode of the Your Money, Your Wealth TV show. There are literally hundreds of educational videos to get you up to speed on just about every money topic that affects you. Just search YouTube for Pure Financial Advisors and Your Money, Your Wealth. Start binge watching with purpose and check back regularly because we're always adding new videos. Time now for Big Al's List. Every week, Big Al Clopine scours the media to find the best tips, do's and don'ts, mistakes, myths, and advice to improve your overall financial picture in handy bullet point format. This week, 9 tips to plan for retirement if you don't plan to retire.
So, Joseph, this is an article I found in MarketWatch, written by Ken Ticino.
Huh.
Ken Ticino of Widener University.
Okay.
Widener University.
Never heard of it.
Me neither. But I like the article, and it's interesting.
Did our crack research team get you with the title?
Yeah. 9 tips to plan for retirement if you don't plan to retire.
Huh.
Let's think about that.
Okay.
9 tips to plan for retirement if you don't plan to retire. So think about most people, or many people, I should say. Some people are counting the days until retirement. Can't wait.
Right.
Right. Some people have to keep working just because they haven't saved enough. But some people actually choose to continue working even though they're financially able to retire because they like their jobs. They're fulfilled. It's like, why try to get fulfillment somewhere else and reinvent yourself if you're already enjoying your life?
Sure.
Right. So this article is written for you guys.
All right.
Right.
That was a great intro, by the way.
Wonderful. Right.
That was
and
well
so,
thought out.
Oh, big time. I just read the first paragraph. Sort of. Anyway, here's a stat, Joe. In the second quarter of 2017, 19% of those aged 70 to 74 were still in the workforce. 19%. Now, that's a lot higher than other things that we've read and seen. And unfortunately, this article does not give us a source. Right. So I'm just going to take his word for it.
I wonder, I guess we could, slice and dice numbers until we're blue in the face, but 20%, I wonder, out of that 20%, are people that need to work versus want to work?
Yeah, and I don't know, right? But here's the comparison. So 19% in 2017. In 1994, it was 11%.
Okay.
So we're up. More people are working, age 70 to 74. So if that's you're working into your 70s because you want to work, right? What are some of the planning opportunities for you? Maybe you don't even ever want to retire. We've heard people say that.
Sure.
Especially if you're a business owner and you like what you're doing.
Right.
It's like, I don't ever plan to retire, Joe.
Yeah, because I'm not doing anything. I got a bunch of
I just
employees and I just collect checks.
Yeah, I like that.
I know a couple of those people.
I'm the CEO. So here's one thing you might consider is you may be able to avoid required minimum distributions. Because for most people at 70 and a half, you have to start taking money out of your 401k.
That is why I'm going to continue to work.
Yeah, to
avoid required minimum distributions.
Well, no, but in context, right? These are people that want to work because they are getting fulfillment out of it. And here's things that you can do if you're in that situation. And one is you can avoid required minimum distributions in your company's 401k, as long as you're not a 5% owner or more. So in other words, it can't be your sole company. If you're an employee of a company and you own less than 5% of that company, your company 401k, you do not have to take a required minimum distribution.
So they look at that ownership exclusion, I guess for lack of a better word, on your RBD, on your required beginning date.
Right.
What we've found out the hard way, Alan and I, is that it's got to be under an ERISA plan. So if you're a sole proprietor and you have a solo 401k and you're still working in your 70s and you roll all your money into this solo 401k because, hey, it's a 401k plan, I don't have to take a required distribution because I'm an active participant in that plan. But it doesn't, you're over a 5% owner of that.
Correct.
Because you're a 100% owner of it. But what I read is that they look at your required beginning date, and your required beginning date starts April 1st, the year after you turn 70 and a half, right? Normally.
Yes.
Okay. Well, no, always.
Yeah.
Unless I'm still an active participant in a plan?
I thought that's where you're going.
Okay. And then, so let's say April 2nd, I'm not a 5% owner of the plan or things like that. You could, hypothetically, this is really gray and it's probably tax fraud, but people were opening up a 401k plan then and then rolling their money in because I was not a 5% owner at my required beginning date. It happened afterwards.
Got it. Yes.
So anyway, I don't
little
know.
semantics.
I don't know
Boy,
why I
you went to the weeds on that one.
I did. I really wanted to show I'm the smartest guy in the room.
That's why I respect you. Anyway, a couple more things on that is if you have an IRA, you still have to take a required minimum distribution. Or if you have another 401k from an older employer, you still have to take a required minimum distribution. So if your current 401k allows you to roll in other assets from other plans, including your IRA, you might want to go ahead and do that so you can avoid the RMD.
But you don't ultimately avoid it forever. As soon as you retire, then you have your required distribution.
You do. It's just, you just defer it.
You defer your
longer,
RMD until you decide to separate service.
And let's say you retire at age 79, right? So the following year, April 1st of the year after you retire? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, but then you would have to do two. You would still have to satisfy the RMD the year that you retired.
Got it. Right? Yeah, you got to do a couple of them.
And then those would be pretty large.
Pretty large because now you got to do the table as a 79-year-old and 80-year-old. So you're going to have a higher percentage coming out than as a 70-and-a-half-year-old.
Right.
In other cases, Joe, you may be able to take retirement distributions while working, like if you have some extra expenses and maybe you're in a low enough tax bracket. Of course, we know that once you're over 59 and a half, you can take distributions without the 10% penalty. You will pay taxes on them. But even better than that is if you're in a low enough tax bracket and you're still working, why not do some Roth conversions? Fill up those lower tax brackets so that eventually when you do retire, you won't have to take the required minimum distribution from the Roth because there is none.
If it's in a Roth IRA. Another, when it comes to distribution planning, there's so many things that you have to look at because now you got the Roth 401k, right? And so Roth 401ks have required minimum distributions. The Roth IRA does not have required minimum distributions.
Right.
And then they're going to take a look at when you start taking distributions from the 401k, you have pre-tax dollars because you maybe contributed to them. You have a match, and then you got Roth dollars. So just be careful when you start taking distributions. If you have after-tax, post-tax, Roth accounts, pre-tax, just to understand how to segregate all that stuff.
Yeah. Here's number 3, Joe, is you may be able to keep making Roth IRA contributions because you're working. You have earned income. And right now, if you're single for 2017, you can have up to $118,000 of income, adjusted gross income, and still make a full $6,500 Roth IRA contribution. And once you get to $133,000, then you can't make any, and then there's that phase-out period. And if you're married, that it's from $186,000 to $196,000. So if you're able to do a Roth contribution and you have the money to do it, why not do it? Because all future growth in income and principal in that Roth is tax-free. And don't forget, your spouse, even if they're not working, they can do a spousal Roth IRA contribution. So that could be $6,500 plus $6,500, $13,000 each and every year that you get into a Roth IRA if you qualify.
Yeah, it's key. That's missed all the time. So IRAs, you're right, 70 and a half, but at Roth IRAs, there is no age limitation. So if you're continuing to have earned income, might as well, if you can afford to.
Yeah, if you can afford to. You may be able to take Social Security without losing benefits. And a lot of people feel like when they're working, they're not allowed to take Social Security without losing benefits. Here's the rule, just so you know. Once you reach full retirement age, which this year is 66 years and 2 months, then you can take your Social Security. It doesn't matter how much money you make. Then you get every dollar that is coming your way. Now, if you're younger than full retirement age, there's all these formulas, Joe, of you get to keep a certain amount of benefits, but you may have to pay some back.
Well, how it works is that if you take your retirement benefit early, let's say you take it at 62 in 2 months, you're going to receive a haircut, roughly 25% haircut on the benefit. So your benefit's $1,000, it's going to go to $750. But if you're working, if you make more than $17,000, right, then every $2 that you earn over that, they're going to take $1 back from your Social Security benefit. And it's not like they're stealing it from you. They're just going to say that you never really claimed it. So your benefit would increase. So you don't get that 25% permanent haircut. It's going to be something less than that. So taking your benefit early, there's just two of those phase outs, is that there's an income threshold that you have to consider. And then also you're going to receive a permanent haircut on that benefit just because you're getting it early. But let's say you take it at full retirement age and you're still working in your 70s, right? The benefit will never go down. It won't hurt you. it will only help you because they take a look at 35 years of work history, right? And if I'm still working in my 70s, I better be making some money.
You better.
You know what I mean? It's like, man, I can't stop working because the damn income is so good.
Right.
Right? And so if I'm making really good income, it's probably better income now than I was making 35 years ago. So they're always going to replace the better income year with a lower income year. So they recalculate your benefit every year, so your benefit will increase. It will never go down. It's like, I had a lower year. I had 35 years of really good income, and I'm still working, but I'm only working part-time, and I'm only making $30,000 a year while I was making $200,000. Is my benefit going to go down because they take an average? No, they take that average of the 35 highest years.
Whether you're planning to retire never or as soon as possible, we've got a free retirement readiness guide that can help. Just visit the white paper section of the Learning Center at yourmoneyyourwealth.com to download this free guide, which contains little-known secrets about creating income to last a lifetime, making the most of your investing strategy in retirement, controlling your taxes, and much more. You'll learn 7 plays to help you get retirement ready, despite the uncertainties we may face. Download this free retirement readiness guide from the white paper section of the Learning Center at yourmoneyyourwealth.com.
Getting into your list, what number are we on?
Oh, we only done 4. We got 5 more to go.
Jeez.
9 tips to plan for retirement if you don't plan to retire. And so these are for folks that are working because they want to work, but yet there's some cool planning things that they can do. One is that if you're in a retirement plan still, like a 401k plan at your work, you can still contribute to it in most cases, and your employer will probably have a match or likely have a match, so you will still get retirement contributions. The only exception is if you're in a defined benefit plan and you've already capped out on your benefits, maybe you don't get anything there. But don't forget that one. But Joe, I want to go back to Social Security, and we're talking about that at the break, and that is here's another real huge benefit of working into at least age 70, and that is if you've got the income to cover your lifestyle, you can afford to wait to collect your Social Security to age 70. And when you do that, your benefit will be a lot higher. In fact, from full retirement age, which right now is 66 years and 2 months, each and every year thereafter, till age 70, your benefit grows by 8%. And that means that if you would have got this simple calculation, if you would have got $10,000 of benefits every year you wait, now it's $10,800. Now it's $11,600, and so forth. So there's a lot of that's a pretty good benefit because Social Security is one of those things that is there as long as you live. It doesn't go away.
Right. It's permanent insurance if you think about it. It's like, or longevity insurance is a better word. So yeah, the people are going so back and forth on this lately.
They are. Yeah.
It's like, well, do you take it now? What's going to be there? It's getting political. It's like means testing, and I don't trust it. I want to take it. I guess that's always been going on.
Sure.
But I think there's so much more information about claiming strategies than ever before because the last, I guess 5 years, there's so many more baby boomers that are at that age to collect that were searching for information, and then it kind of flooded the internet.
Right.
And so type in Social Security on the internet, you're going to get 500,000 opinions on when is the best way to do it. So it's very specific, I think, to someone's overall situation. There's rules of thumb that you want to take a look at. I think Al and I are big believers of trying to push it out as long as you can, just because of the fact that you'll never outlive it. You want to get that base of guaranteed fixed income as large as you can. And we're not huge believers of, purchasing insurance products. So if the federal government is giving you a little bit bigger bone, I think it's a pretty good idea to take it.
Yeah, and it's tax favored because in California anyway, it's tax free in California. And on the federal return, worst case, 15% of it's tax free. You pay tax on 85% of the benefit. Number 7, Joe, is you may want to recalculate the amount you'll need to save for retirement since you will be spending less time in retirement. So it's like sometimes if you retire at age 60, it's like you got to be more careful with your money.
Right.
Now you retire at age 75, it's like spend money.
Yeah, well, right. And I've seen studies now, too, is that the people that are working later actually are living longer.
And I was going to say that, too. That's the flip side to that, right? Which is don't go too crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's those that are working and engaged and passionate about what they're doing, they will likely live longer because they had a reason to live longer.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Let's say you retired early and then all of a sudden you got bored and now you're a couch drunk.
Right.
You know, your life expectancy is. There's a lot of you out there. Don't kid yourself. I know who you are, right? You know, you're like, damn, it's noon. I'm already a little buzzed.
Right. Number 8, Joe, is you may want to ignore the 4% withdrawal strategy.
Ignore it completely?
Because if you're retired,
I suppose take 6% or something like
5%,
that.
6%,
yeah,
7% even.
I would be very cautious with that. Again, I think the 4% rule is to help people to identify a target nest egg, not necessarily a distribution strategy. Taking money out of retirement accounts is a very you got to get a little bit more sophisticated, in my opinion. Al and I have been doing this a couple of days, and if you're just going to go into retirement and say, all right, well, what the hell, I'm just going to pull 4% out because that's what I heard on the radio, you might blow yourself up. The 4% rule is a good tool to work backwards to figure out, hey, how much do I need in a nest egg? Right? I think that's the only way that you should use that, because we see people that retire with a lot less nest egg than they should have, and they're taking way too much money out of it because they don't really understand. I have $100,000. That's a lot of money. So they're taking $10,000 out a year. Okay, well, that might be a little bit too much. Right? So if you want to take $10,000 out per year, well, you do the math. Well, 4% into 10,000 is what? You know, so it's not $100,000. It's 400.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, you lost me on your example. So if you have 100,000, 4%, you can take out 4,000 per
Correct.
year, not 10,000.
10. If I'm taking 10, people get confused, right?
Yes.
So I have $100,000 saved. I believe I can take $10,000 out. No, you cannot take $10,000 out.
Right.
Because you'll blow yourself up. You could take 4,000 out or something less or something more, depending on markets, taxes, your other fixed income, and so on.
Yes.
But if I'm looking at, if I need $10,000 per year, what's 4% divided into 10,000?
Well, then you want what? Is that 400,000?
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah.
Or no, it's not. It's.
I know that's what I said too.
It's 250,000.
250,000. 4% of 250,000 is $10,000. Yes.
I finally got there.
Yes.
Finally with it.
So but it's easy to say 400,000, isn't it? 4% into 10,000. Right? I guarantee you, Andre. What do you think? You thought 400,000 too.
He was.
Open up a Roth IRA. Damn it.
He was thinking about the Roth. He wasn't paying attention. So the last consideration, Joe, is kind of a catch-all. It's other things you might want to consider. Like if you're still working in a job, you probably have better health insurance coverage, maybe, than Medicare and supplemental.
I doubt it.
You might.
That was a joke.
Another one would be you might invest your portfolio a little bit differently than someone else. And there's two different trains of thought depending upon your situation. Maybe you take less risk in your portfolio because you don't need the money for as long, or maybe you take more risk because you don't need the money, right? Depending upon what your long-term goals are. Do you want to have the money around when you pass for your kids or for charity or for whatever you want? Or it's like, you know what, I got enough money already. Let's go really safe. I may not have to be very aggressive because I don't need the money as long.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the idea. And then finally, you might want to focus more on your estate plan and lifetime giving opportunities because you're working longer, so maybe there's a little bit more capital to be a little bit more generous.
Yeah, I think as the older we get, too, there's a different type of planning that you look at. And I'll wrap up with this quick story just to help someone identify maybe some planning opportunities that you want to do. Is that there was an individual that had a pension and Social Security that covered 100% of her living expenses. She was a widow. And she had a couple $1 million, and she's like, okay, well, here, what do I do with these dollars? My husband took care of it. I really don't know. I want to give a little bit to charity. I want to, of course, give to my family and so on. But her fixed income sources were covering most of it. She's getting RMDs now. She's in her mid-70s. And so some of the things that you look at is to say, all right, well, if you forecast that out to life expectancy, this $3 million that you've accumulated, I don't know, maybe over the next 15 years could double at a fairly conservative rate, right? So now you have $6 million. Do you want to give $6 million to your kids? Well, I don't know. That seems like a lot. I want to give a little bit to charity. Okay, well, how much do you want to give to charity? Maybe 5%, 10%, 20%, 30%? What's the number? Well, 20%. Well, then you could take a present value of that, right? And then you could do some cool tax planning. while you're alive and give while you're alive. Most people love to do that, and knowing that their financial house is in order, they can give to the charities that they're passionate about, and knowing that there's going to be still a good-sized dollar figure that will go to the family.
The kids get, plus they get a tax deduction today.
Exactly.
It's all good.
Right. So it's just a different way to look at things. Again, when you're taking dollars out, when you're in retirement or wealth transfer, it's a different play. It's a different strategy. It's a different type of planning than when you're just trying to, throw money at your 401k plan and try to get to a certain dollar figure as soon as you can.
Strategies for retirement account contributions and distributions, collecting Social Security, withdrawal rates, estate planning, charitable giving. These are all really highly personal things, and they depend on the specifics of your situation. If you're planning to put off retirement as long as possible, or if you want to retire as soon as possible, call 888-994-6257 or email info@purefinancial.com to learn what strategies make the most sense for you in retirement, or non-retirement as the case may be. Make sure you're making the most of your situation. Call 888-994-6257 or email info@purefinancial.com. That's 888-994-6257 or info@purefinancial.com.
Money is emotional.
It is. We just found out about that, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
You kind of have to get your mind right, I think, before you start doing this, and I think that's probably a big miss of a lot of people. It's like it's kind of like, it's almost like getting into shape. You already kind of know the formula: eat less and exercise more, get enough sleep.
Right. I mean, if you look at these workout videos, the magazines, I mean, that's a billion dollar business.
It is, and it's like, I know there's a lot to it. And
all you got to do is burpees. You know what I mean? You eat some salads and do burpees. You don't need to spend, $50 a month on.
You can jog. You can get little weights for at home. You can do core exercises.
You don't even
planks.
need the little weights.
You don't necessarily, right? You can do planks, sit-ups, push-ups.
Yeah, push-ups, burpees.
Right? Burpees. You do burpees?
Oh, I do burpees. Yeah,
okay.
I do a lot of burpees.
A long time.
They'll knock you out, man.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Yes.
I met a guy last night in our neighborhood. So he told me that he recommends this exercise routine where the first day you do one push-up, one sit-up, one whatever, and then you just keep advancing. And then
the next day you do two, and the next day you do
so
three.
on. And then, but he said after each rep, so one sit-up, then you do 500 jump ropes. That seemed kind of extreme. You go from nothing to maybe you tailor that up. But he said if you goof up and like at 300 you trip, you have to start over.
Huh.
So that's what he does, and so he's gotten to where it's like a couple hours workout by the time he's doing his whatever.
Well, yeah, you get a couple of months.
Yeah.
I mean, right? If would you rather have a penny that compounds daily? And at the end of 30 days, or would you rather have $1 million?
Yeah. Well, I think it's the penny, right?
Yeah, the penny.
What is the?
I don't know what it is.
It's higher than $1 million.
It's big. It's a big number.
we came prepared today.
Yeah. Oh,
but
boy.
You're right. It's incremental. It's making changes. It's because so many people fail in their diet and exercise, to kind of continue that metaphor, because they try to do too much too quickly, right? It's like, all right, I'm not going to eat a dessert ever again. It's like, and then 3 days.
What?
Well, I guess I can't do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, plan some of that in there. It's okay. Just make some changes.
You can't. I mean, it's so difficult. There's some people that can do it, that goes cold turkey.
Right.
And all of a sudden, this is my diet, this is my regimen, and this is my exercise routine, and I'm going to stick with it. If it's, man, because the first day you go to the gym, guess what happens the next 5 days? You are sore as hell.
You are.
And
you're
you
right.
don't want to even think about moving. And so I got to go to the gym again today.
Yeah.
When I did it too, because you're all motivated. That first day, you're so motivated. You're in there. I'm going to run 10 miles.
Yeah.
I'm going to, bench press. I'm going to squat. I'm going to do my abs. I'm going to do everything. And then you blow yourself up. And then you're done for 2 months. You're like, I'm never doing this again.
Right.
So you sit on the couch and eat McDonald's.
And the other thing that happens with your diet is, you're eating McDonald's and burritos and all this stuff, and you go, okay, I'm going to eat right. And next day, salad, carrots,
right?
Yeah, radishes.
You see it in the office. You see it. I'm not going to call anyone out, but I see it in the office every day of my life. One day, it's like, wow, I'm on an all kale diet. And then the next day, it's like all of a sudden Jack in the Box. I'm like, what happened to kale there, Bubba?
Right. doesn't last.
Kale sucks.
So I guess the point is gradual is good. You actually can sustain it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's all about habits, right? You got to get in a good habit.
Yeah.
And it takes time to develop that habit.
Yeah. Now, sometimes a life event happens, like a heart attack.
Sure.
And that will motivate you.
Right. You go to the doctor and all of a sudden they're like, hey,
you're going to die.
You got a mild case of whatever.
Right.
You're like, oh, boy.
Yeah, right. You need to change tomorrow, today.
Yes.
Yeah, right now. And so then you get the list, you go to the store and you buy the food.
Right.
And then you're down for about a week, but then you get used to it.
Yeah.
And that does happen.
Yeah, sometimes when you get some news, that can definitely, those are life changers.
It's a life changer, right?
But unfortunately, we don't have that in our finances. It's not like you're right. You go to a financial advisor. It's not like the doctor saying, you know what, here, you're going to die. I might tell someone, you know what, you will run out of money.
Yeah,
and then they won't believe me.
Yeah, in 8 years, and they go, well,
no way. Well, we can fix this or whatever.
But Joe, you don't understand. We can spend less.
Oh, yeah, we're not lavish. No, right? It's like, okay, do you have 3 months of your expenses in cash? No. Okay, that's an issue. That's a red flag, right? You need to work on this.
Right.
You have how old are you? Let's say you're 60. Well, what times of your salary do you have saved in your 401k plan? You make $100,000, you're 60, you have $100,000 saved.
Yeah, that's one time.
That's one time.
You should have 8 times.
8 times. You're way behind. Well, I could catch up. You don't understand.
When are you retiring? Next year.
Next year. Right? But it's like with our finances, there's not that, for some individuals anyway. I'm not trying to, cast a spell on everyone. But I've been doing this almost 20 years, and we've seen thousands. So I have a little bit experience in this field.
Yeah. Well, it could happen. You could have a house in a hurricane zone and lose everything. And that would force you to save.
Of course.
So it can happen.
It can happen, but
But do you want...
People are just dying a slow financial death.
Right.
Is really what's going on.
Right.
And because of procrastination. Well, there's next year. And, I had this expense. And you know what? I understand. You got kids that you had to put through school. You have a mortgage that you have to pay for. You had a health event. You had this. You had that. I understand.
Yeah, you lost your job or any number of things that happen. And
life happens.
These are real things. And that's why you save beforehand, so you can weather the storm, and then you still have retirement savings and other things like that. You get another job or whatever the situation.
Now you're fully
was.
Employed. How much of your income are you saving?
Right.
Are you saving 5%? You should be probably saving 15 to 20%.
Yeah, I would agree. I think,
depending on what you have saved and if you're on track or not on track and things like that.
I think 15%, that's a reasonable goal, or probably what you should get to. It's so few people are there, though.
Right. I was going through basically how much money that you need to retire on whatever lifestyle. So if you're spending $20,000 a year, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000, so on, and I was going through the arithmetic.
Right.
Here's what you're spending. Here's what your Social Security benefits are. Here's what you're short.
Right.
So then you multiply that shortfall by 25, and then that's going to tell you how much money that you need.
Right.
Or another way to say it is that you don't want to pull out any more than 4% out of your portfolio. Right. And guess what? I mean, this whole classroom just looked at me dumbfounded. What? That's it? Only 4%? Yes. And oh my God, we're currently retired and we're pulling out way more than that. It's like, well, you people need to get educated here. You need to take a look at what is going on in your situation. How much money do you have? How serious are you about your overall retirement? And making sure that you got a game plan in place to pay off your debt if you have debt. To take a look, do you keep a mortgage or do you refinance and push the thing out? Do you pay it off? Do you have student loan debt, still from yourself or from the kids? Just understand what you got. Write it down. I know sometimes it gets stressful. A lot of times I don't want to go to the doctor. It's like, I don't want to, I understand that maybe I'm out of shape or whatever.
Right.
But you got to face the music at some point. And the sooner you do it, I think the better off you're going to be.
Well, Joe, I think procrastination is the big problem. And this is kind of interesting. I saw this last week. This is how to build $1 million. You're 40 years old. You got nothing. And you want to retire at 67. So, and I'm not saying $1 million is the right number. It's actually should be different for everybody. But just to go with this illustration, you want to build $1 million. You're 40. You're going to work 27 more years. So if you make $40,000 a year, you have to save 37% of your income, right? If it's $60,000, you got to save 25% of your income. $100,000, it's 15% of your income, and if you're making $120,000, it's 13% of your income.
Starting at what age?
At 40,
okay,
and retiring at 67. You can get there, but then the question is the $1 million, is it the right answer? Because for some people, $300,000 is plenty, and other people, it's $3, $4, $5 million.
Yeah, all right, so 40. I'm 40.
Yeah.
I'm going to retire at 67. $1 million is not going to be $1 million today.
That's right, and $1 million will generate about $40,000 of spendable money.
And so that is going to feel like probably $20,000.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, all right, so you save your tail off, you get the $1 million, but now you're still feels like you're poverty.
Right.
It's a tough game, man. It's a tough game. But it's time to get serious. If you're looking at, hey, am I on track, not on track? What do I need to do? I would start today.
If you've got a burning money question, just call 888-994-6257 for your chance to talk to Joe and Big Al and have your question answered live during Your Money, Your Wealth. That number again is 888-994-6257. Of course, Joe and Big Al are always willing to answer your email questions at info@purefinancial.com, or you can send them directly to joe.anderson@purefinancial.com or alan.clopine@purefinancial.com.
We got an email question this week, and it was based on the 5-year clock on a Roth IRA. Did you see that one?
Yes, I think so.
So here was the question. In regards to, let's say if you're married, and so, hey, I'm going to get married. My wife has had a Roth IRA for 7 years. I'm thinking about starting a Roth now. Does my 5-year clock happen because I'm going to marry her because she's got a Roth and she's had it for over 5 years? Something to that effect. So I think he was looking to get married because of the 5-year clock.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I'm not finding it in 3 seconds. But yeah, that was the question. It had.
He's like, hey, what do you think? Is this a good idea to get married?
Right.
She's got a Roth IRA. Can I use her 5-year clock?
We get that question all the time. Should I get married? And usually we'll say that's none of our business.
Yeah. Well, what are you asking me for?
And then on the off chance that I'll say, well, that's up to you. However, from a tax standpoint, and then someone acts on that, then I hear about it for the next 10 years.
Because if you ask Alan and you ask me if you should get married, you're going to probably get 2 totally different types of answers.
That's true.
Right? How long have you been married?
29 years.
30 years. 30 years of wedding bliss, just
yes.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never been married.
Yes. So don't ask Joe, should I get married?
Yeah, the longest relationship I've had is about 6 weeks.
No, you've had, what, a couple years?
Oh, sure. I don't know.
3 years?
Yeah.
Give or take.
Great. Yeah, let's bring up the bad memories, Al. I'm in a good mood. Next thing you know.
Well, anyway, I think the question was, so was one, should I get married, right? And the other question is, can I use my wife's 5-year clock?
And the answer is, it's an individual retirement account. So that means it's yours. There's no joint accounts. So if you have a Roth IRA, your wife has a Roth IRA, or future wife has a Roth IRA, no, it's based on your own contributions or conversions. And let me explain the 5-year clock again, because it is a little confusing. Roth IRA in general will grow 100% tax-free, but they have to be a qualified distribution. And what qualifies a distribution to be tax-free, in the most general sense, is that it has to season in the Roth IRA for 5 years or until you turn 59 and a half, whichever's longer. And so if you make contributions into the Roth, so let's say 5 years ago, you made one contribution to the Roth, a Roth IRA at TD Ameritrade, and then this year you make another Roth IRA contribution at Fidelity, right? So you've had a Roth IRA open for a total of 5 years. You opened the first one up at TD Ameritrade. So that second contribution, even though it was 5 years later into the Roth IRA, that 5-year clock is satisfied with the first dollar that went into the first Roth at TD Ameritrade. Each Roth IRA contribution does not have a 5-year clock. And what it means is that the money needs a season inside the Roth IRA for 5 years or 59 and a half to have a qualified distribution for it to be tax-free. So if you're 45 years old, right, well, you can't touch the money until you're 59 and a half. But let's say if you're 65 years old and you put money into a Roth IRA, you have to wait until age 70 to get any of the growth out tax-free if you've never established a Roth IRA before. Is that pretty succinct?
Yes, that makes sense.
All right. So that's on contributions. However, with contributions, it's FIFO tax treatment, first in, first out. So it doesn't. You can always have access to the money that you put into the Roth IRA. So if you put in $5,000 today, and then next week you need the $5,000, you pull it out, no big deal, no taxes, no harm, no fault.
Yeah, and I think that's where
at any age,
and a lot of people don't realize that they did a Roth contribution. Now, they know that they have to wait 5 years or 59 and a half, whichever is longer, to get the earnings out, the growth out, right? But that original contribution of $5,000, you can take that out at any time, at any age. It doesn't matter whether it's 1 week or 20 years. You can take it out, and there's no tax and there's no penalty. So many people don't understand that, and a lot of accountants don't understand that, too. They think that, no, you can't touch it until you're 59 and a half.
And I think that's why a lot of times when we have older individuals, let's say in their 70s, that are doing Roth conversions to try to reduce some of the required distributions and things like that, then they might hear, oh, this 5-year clock, if I need access to the money, I need to wait 5 years?
Yeah, I can't wait 5 years.
No,
right.
It's you always have access to the money that you pay tax on. Just think of it like that. Unless you're under 59 and a half, then that's a totally separate 5-year clock. That's on conversions.
Right.
So if you do a Roth IRA conversion, if you're under 59 and a half, each conversion has its own 5-year clock. So I do a conversion at 45, 46, 47, 48, whatever. Each year I do those conversions, I have to wait 5 years to be able to get access to that conversion money.
Yeah, not the growth.
Not the growth.
The conversion money.
The conversion money.
Right.
Once I'm over 59 and a half, then it's just the 5 years on the growth. I can have access to the money that I convert at any time.
Right.
If I've already established a Roth IRA that satisfies the 5-year clock, and I do a conversion, if I'm over 59 and a half, my 5-year clock is already satisfied.
You don't have to do it again. You never have to do it again at that point.
Because what they're trying to do on the conversion side to have these all sorts of different crazy 5-year clocks is that they're trying to avoid people to avoid the 10% early distribution penalty if you're under 59 and a half.
Right, yeah, because if you take money out, you pay a 10% penalty. And if they say, well, you can do a conversion, you pay the tax on the conversion, but then if you could pull it out the next day, now all of a sudden you avoided the penalty. So we're going to say every time you do a conversion, when you're younger than 59 and a half, you got to wait 5 years before you can actually get those dollars, and without penalty, right? And so I guess they figure in 5 years your financial situation might have changed.
Right. Yeah, that impulse buy is gone.
It's gone.
Yeah. And again, if you're under 59 and a half, you could take money from a retirement account, an IRA, 401k, 403b, and convert that to a Roth IRA. You do have to pay tax, but there is no penalty. There is no penalty. Unless you pay the tax out of the IRA, then the money that you pull out of the IRA to pay the tax, well, then that is not a qualified conversion dollar, so just be careful there. But you could do a Roth IRA conversion. That's taking money from a retirement account, converting it to a Roth. Why do you want to do that? Is then all future growth of those dollars is going to grow 100% tax-free. You're going to get tax diversification. When you start creating income, you're going to have different pools of money that you can pull from. So there's a lot of different value add depending on your situation. Hey, hopefully this helped. We had a great time doing the show. For Big Al Quilpon, I'm Joe Anderson. We'll be back again next week. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth.
So to recap today's show, money's emotional, and most people don't have enough of it for retirement. So start treating it like a fitness plan. Start gradually and build up discipline. If you don't plan to retire, some of your financial strategies may change for the better. Call 888-994-6257 for a free financial assessment to help you make the most of your situation. And if your spouse-to-be has a 7-year-old Roth IRA, you shouldn't marry them just to take advantage of that 5-year Roth clock, because it doesn't work that way. And you shouldn't be asking Joe and Big Al for marriage advice anyway. Subscribe to this podcast at yourmoneyyourwealth.com through your favorite podcatcher or on iTunes, where you can also check out our ratings and reviews. And remember, if you've got a burning money question for Joe and Big Al to answer live on Your Money, Your Wealth, just email info@purefinancial.com or call 888-994-6257. Listen next week for more Your Money, Your Wealth, presented by Pure Financial Advisors. Pure Financial Advisors is a registered investment advisor. This show does not intend to provide personalized investment advice through this broadcast and does not represent that the securities or services discussed are suitable for any investor. Investors are advised not to rely on any information contained in the broadcast in the process of making a full and informed investment decision. Your Money, Your Wealth opening song Motown Gold by Carl James Pestka is licensed under a Creative Commons license.